In this 100 Days Adventures, we're going to be playing Farmstead, a game where you plant, cut, to get better tools, level up skills, and unlock new areas. During these 100 days, I have 3 goals. Get one of the skills that is in the game up to level 10, decorate my farm to the best of my ability, and hopefully unlock all areas, which there are 3 in the game. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. Starting off on day 1, once we have loaded in, there is a beautiful cutscene explaining we need to clean this place up, that there's other areas to explore. Ooh. Ah. Then the cutscene told me to get to work, so I did. First off with messing with the settings. With that squared away, I started with the starting quest and tilled up some farmland and planted my first crops. After watering my newfound crops and discovering I was going to get 1,000 steps in for the day with all the watering I was needing to do, I started clearing out the weeds, grabbing a few of my fully grown wheat in the process. While I waited for the final amount of wheat to grow, I set about selling some of the decorations my farm had started with. I did not need to have a pretty farm at the moment. I needed some money. Once my wheat was fully grown, I harvested it up. I went ahead and caught a fish before heading back to town to sell my goods. 56 gold later and 5 new wheat seeds for my quest, I ran over and talked to Robin to get our next quest started, which just involved talking to all the townsfolk. Once I had done some drive-by introductions to everyone, I turned in the quest and started on our next one involving corn. Why would anyone collect corn is beyond me, but free money is always welcome. Running over to Brooks, I grabbed his quest for a wooden barrel and crate, something I may or may not have remembered to do later. Finally, I continued the tutorial quest and went to Sailor Santiago and returned to my farm. Once back at my farm, I took a look at the building menu and shopped to see what I had unlocked before buying a wooden plank to place down. I don't understand why that was a needed quest item, but there you go. And then I finally finished off my starting quest, collecting a whole 25 gems. Oh boy. Running quickly back to town, I grabbed some more wheat seeds, I returned to the farm and started planting all of them. I also started setting up an apple farm. This would be crucial throughout the run just to get some money. Then I started clearing out some of the local trees and grass. Then, before long, my wheat was ready again, so it was time to replant and sell off some more decorations before, again, replanting. Y'all sensing a theme here? The start of day 2 had me harvesting the remaining wheat and heading into town to sell. I also picked up a quest from Tom and 300 corn seeds. After planting my corn seeds, I had become a human lawnmower and chainsaw for a bit. As my first patch of seeds finally growing, I replanted and expanded my farm a bit before continuing to deforest. I now had farming up to level 2, woodcutting up to level 2, and foraging up to level 2. And of course, more planting and harvesting. I then ran around my land looking for forageables, collecting apples to sell, before returning to town, turning in 2 quests I'd picked up. I sold all my corn and other crops for about 700 gold and picked up some more seeds. Day 3, I returned to the farm and bought a scarecrow. This was to stop the stupid birds from stealing my money. I then expanded my farmland to fill up the scarecrow spots and planted some corn. More deforestation occurred and selling of decorations. I bought a composter to help me get fertilizer, something of which I wouldn't actually understand how that fully worked, but we'll get to that later. And on my way to town, I picked up some chicken feed that someone had thrown on the ground. After a quick trip to craft 2 blueprints for a quest and turning it in, I bought some pepper seeds. And with some extra cash to spare, I got a new axe and pickaxe. Before returning home at the end of the day, starting to plant my new pepper seeds. This new pickaxe was making very short work on the rocks and ores around my farm, and I finally hit mining level 2. Day 4 was more mining and becoming the enemy of all trees. I also had my first bit of fertilizer, which I placed on my plot and harvested up my first batch of chilies before going to sell them for 666 gold. Nice. I bought some pepper seeds and returned to plant them. Now, so that I'm not coming up with different ways to say that I was chopping trees and mining. This is something I'm constantly doing while waiting for my crops to grow. So if you're not hearing me talking about doing it much in the future, rest assured I am doing it a lot. With the peppers being fast growers, I was able to harvest them all fairly quickly. I also looked at the blueprints in my inventory and sold several I didn't want and hope I can get more of them in the future for some easy cash. Day 5 started off with me getting my forging skill up to level 3, selling off my tent because I can sleep on the ground. I also bought another scarecrow with the thought of creating more farmland. Also caught a fish. Glub. After taking a trip to town, selling my junk, which netted me a very nice profit, I also left the berries I had been collecting in the jammer in town. This was something you were able to do for free until I was able to get them later on. Buying some blueberry seeds, I returned home and planted my first field with them. Day 6, I started tilling my second field area and watering them, and watering them, and watering them until my well ran dry. And then, again, I was back over at the composter using my 2 brain cells trying to figure it out. Finally, those 2 managed to figure it out, and then I returned to murdering some trees. Then I attempted to plant grass in my field, figured out they needed to be planted on regular ground, after a time I will not disclose, before unlocking farming level 3. I was very excited for some of the new unlocks. Day 7 started with some tree clearing. I wanted to check my stats because I had found something for fertilizer required level 4 foraging, and I really wanted it from there, and that would be the mushroom pots. I decided to start fishing, lost the first one, but luckily got the second. Fishing was not really something I was excited about leveling up, and probably wouldn't be leveling up that much. Then I noticed the blueberries I'd planted earlier were ready to be harvested, mostly. I then finally finished watering and fertilizing my second field, collected the rest of my blueberries, headed to town, grabbed my jam, sold everything for 2,800 gold, bought some more apple trees, max stack of blueberry seeds, and I returned to replant my blueberry seeds, fertilizing my fields, and starting to fertilize my apple farm. And then I had to clear out some trees so that I could expand my apple farm. Day 8 was working on my foraging skill. While running around, I noticed a large manta ray shadow by the docks. I tried my luck in fishing for it, and the RNG gods have blessed me because I managed to get it. I went to town to trade out my jam and get some planks made along with some copper smelting. I don't really think I even used them that much, because other than making blueprints, they don't do anything else. I also saw that I could get an upgraded watering can, so I sewed everything I had onto the manta ray for some reason, picked up a magnifying glass, which would help me look at details about my plants. I think I used it maybe 4 or 5 times, and a silver watering can. I then picked up some carrot seeds and returned home, bought another scarecrow to start working on a new field for my crops, and set to work getting ready and planting some of the carrots I had picked up. Day 9 was harvesting my grown blueberry plants, replanting the seeds I'd picked up, fertilizing my third field that I was working on, and then during my daily clearing of my land, I hit wood cutting number 3, which, yay! Harvesting carrots, I realized that they were very fast growing, and this was making me have to spend a lot of time around the field. Visiting town, I sold off what I had gathered for 800, but considering I was saving my blueberries to be jammed so that I could get more of them, I knew money would be slow for just a little bit, because if you jam them, you get more money. I spent the money I had on carrot seeds, gathered up the wood and metal I've left in town before stopping by the fertilizer in town, and realizing that I could use that one along with how the different fertilizer was used with grass and mushrooms. Yeah, it took me 2.5 hours to figure this out. The last part of day 9, I spent planting my new carrot seeds and organizing my inventory. Day 10 was clearing day. Rocks and ores feared me. I got mining up to level 3, and halfway through my day, my carrot crops were ready to be harvested. I went down and sold everything for quite a pretty penny. Bought more carrot seeds, did my town chores, then started planting the massive amount of carrot seeds I had, and this literally bled into most of day 11. The remaining part of day 11, I removed the back half of my third field so that I could use some better fertilizer. I then started the watering process, which the going back and forth was getting incredibly old. I then started the same thing in the front to use better fertilizer. harvesting my carrot crops, resowing the field, and I also hit level 4 in farming. Start of day 12, I was still redoing my fields. Well, to be frank, it was most of day 12. This was also the day that I realized the server was not syncing with the time correctly. I believed in an updated version this is fixed. However, I was just going to have to suffer through it now. I ran to town, sold my carrots and other wares, bought a copper sickle, 198 carrot seeds, and returned home to finish up my fields. Day 13 was continuing redoing my fields. Once I had finished them, I planted my carrots. Looking back at this now, I wonder why I did this. When I didn't record this whole thing in a single session, and I think I was about to have one of my break times after this. Oh well. Once I finished, I lit up my anger on some trees. Also managed to hit foraging level 4. Near the end of the day, harvesting my carrots and replanting the extra seeds. Day 14, I invested in my first mushroom box. These are helpful because they allow you to be able to get guaranteed mushrooms every 30 minutes, and you can also get the purple ones, which are the best. I then ran into town, did my chores, buying 198 peas and some more apples to expand my apple farm. I kept enough money to buy another mushroom box and got to planting my peas. I had to clear the area where I wanted to expand my apple farm, but honestly at this point with my upgraded tools, it was significantly easier. Another trip to town, I finished up one of Robin's quests, did my chores in town, and headed back home. Returning home on day 15, started with me expanding my silo to keep a few more of the items I had acquired that I would likely never use again. I also made the horrible choice to buy a beehive, 100 gems to waste seriously. Planting the rest of the pea seeds I had, I bought 2 more mushroom boxes, harvested some crops, and after a quick lap around my island foraging, I sold some of the blueprints I had picked up, because they're easy money. I also bought a concrete maker. I think this is one of the only times I actually used it. After harvesting some crops and doing some inventory management, I headed into town, turned in another Robin quest, sold my inventory for over 9k, bought a ton of carrots, picked up Kara's quest before heading on home. And as the day ended, I started planting my carrots, which this was also going to very much so bleed into day 16. And after I wrapped up planting my seeds, I started deforesting as normal, and then decided to buy 2 more mushroom pots and a crafting table, placing them both down. I did take a quick trip to town to turn in Kara's quest, selling some stuff, and after taking a brief look at their crafting recipes, I bought a chicken coop. This thing was far bigger than I thought when I tried to place it, and after trapping myself in the coop, I decided to go ahead and harvest my crops before we got into day 17. Which day 17 was great because I started by getting level 5 in farming and unlocking my first skill cape. Now, all the skills, the moment you hit level 5 and 10, you unlock skill capes. So this was my first one I would be getting, and I was super excited. I then wrapped up harvesting and planting new crops, then started the process of trying to put up a pen for future chickens. I realized I was very much so out of cash, so I ran into town, sold my crops, buying an upgraded cultivator. I spent the rest of the day enjoying the lovely building mechanics, trying to place fence posts. Oh my god. After that ordeal, I bought one of each chicken, placed in a watering and feeding trough, and then realized I had no animal feed, other than the one I had picked up in town. So I went ahead and went to town, picked up some animal feed and some seeds, returned to feed my chickens, and get more steps in with filling the watering trough. Day 19 started with harvesting my fully grown fields. I spent most of the day clearing forageables and getting apples, and my chickens had finally given me some eggs. And then pretty much I just was harvesting my crops and replanting them as day 19 ended. Day 20, I was still harvesting up my crops, and I started to go ahead and start replanting out my fields with some carrot seeds. My chickens were also giving me an absolute ton of eggs, and I was also beginning to discover they really like food. I also realized that my ingenious idea to have a variety of chicken farm was very ill-placed, so I went ahead and got rid of everyone except for the high-end ones. After standing and staring at nothing in town for probably a good 2 minutes, I went and sold everything I had for just over 8K. Bought 3 sacks of carrot seeds and then headed on home. I then decided to save my feet and my sanity by placing a well next to the chicken coop and collecting even more eggs. I then noticed that my field was ready to be harvested again, so I started working on that. And replanting, of course. I will have to say, I do appreciate one thing about this game, that if you lay out where you want your planting or watering, whatever it happens to be, the game automatically moves you to it, and definitely saved my fingers more times than I can count. Day 21 started off with caring for some chickens and heading on into town. Selling all of my goodies, including a golden egg I had picked up. It was well over 10K at this point. And I decided to unlock the plains, which honestly has to be my favorite area for leveling up forageables, because you can just literally cut through so much stuff in this zone. It's insane. I also discovered this really massive fish over by the waterfall and completely missed it. There was also this cute little like greenhouse area that did absolutely nothing. And I regret to comment how long I spent just messing around with stuff over here. So with the plains area, I unlocked a bunch of new crops to be able to use, a bunch of new different woods, ores, and fish. And they also had pear trees, although they weren't as good as my apple trees in my opinion. Actually, it still get me a pretty good profit. Day 21, I'm just going to be honest, guys. I literally ran around in circles foraging the entire time and got foraging level 5. I did wrap up day 21 by harvesting my carrot fields and starting the replanting process, which went well into day 22 because I had close to 200 crop spots that I had to go and fill. So after I finished planting, I went over, harvested my apple trees. It got the absolute monster amount of eggs from my lovely, lovely chickens. Then went over to the plant area and started setting up for another field. Now, as you unlock new zones, you are able to unlock better crops. These are going to give you more money. So I wanted to go ahead and get a field started because I was wanting to start getting strawberries, because 1, you could jam them, and 2, they're going to give me a lot more money than blueberries. So started the process for that. I went ahead and put a well down after I got the field set up, and then I started the painful process of watering it. I then put some of the lovely strawberries I'd picked up from foraging. I'd put those down with some fertilizer before going back and harvesting all of my carrots that were now fully grown at this point and replanting them. Day 23 was me finishing up harvesting up my carrots, grabbing some eggies, feeding my very gluttonous chickens, and going to town to sell everything. I then picked up a ton of blueberry seeds, and I picked up my first full stack of strawberry seeds. Well, maybe 2. I then realized because I had unlocked level 5 in foraging, I now had a new skill cape. So I put on the foraging skill cape because mushroom. I then returned home and planted all the blueberries I had. This would buy me a little bit of time if I was running around the farm because they wouldn't almost immediately grow by the time I was done planting them. I went and did some foraging in our main little starting area. And working on finishing up fertilizing and planting my field in the plains. And at the start of day 24, I started expanding my plains field to have a second little area, and I started the long process of getting all that set up. Have I commented how much I love the drag and click option in this game? Then with about half of our day gone, I went ahead and picked up my chicken eggs and took care of my crops in my first area. After some quick inventory management, I went ahead about and started replanting everything. And hit farming level 6. Yay! Then after some inventory management at the silo, I went ahead and did some little farm chores around, mostly getting my mushrooms, looking at some stuff in the build menu, buying a hand mill, which was meant to actually make animal food. I don't really think I used that. So day 25 marked me actually placing that down. And buying a mushroom box, realizing I was just a little bit short on money, so I went ahead and sold some of the old blueprints I had. They're easy money, and you pick them up a lot during foraging. I would get so many. So I bought a second one, and went ahead and put both down. And after grabbing my lovely apples, I headed on into town. Sold everything I had picked up. Went over to the blacksmith. Kind of checked out when I could get some of the next tools. A lot of them were going to be farming 11, 10, and that was mostly what I was looking at is level 10 and level 7 to get these new tools. I then picked up a ton of blueberry seeds and headed home. I returned to pick up my chicken eggs, which again, this is going to be one of those things that I'm constantly doing, so I'm not going to mention it any more times or else y'all are going to get bored and can't have that. So after picking up them chicken eggs, I went ahead and started foraging around the main area, picking up blueprints, all kinds of other stuff. And going over to the plains area and harvesting up my strawberries that had finished growing. As day 26 rolled around, I caught a fish and harvested up my strawberries. I then noticed that those blueberries in the first field were done, so I went ahead and picked them up. And then replanted all of the fields. I then ran around and did some mundane things. Actually, I'm not really quite sure what my thought process was here. Organized my inventory of stuff I was going to sell and went to town. After selling all the fish, eggs, apples, carrots, and everything else, we had 22,000 gold from that. So we ended up with about over 28k, which was a lot. Opening up the blueprint menu, I bought a barn and realized this thing was even more massive than the chicken coop, and realized that I probably did not have enough room. So on day 27, I set about clearing a very large area on this little second island thing I had in my main area. I tried to place the barn down, but I realized if I wanted to enclose the animals, I was going to need an even bigger space. So I realized I was going to have to clear out this larger section, and oh boy. I went ahead and placed the barn down to figure out where else I needed to cut in order to put a fence down so that I could actually start getting some cows. And then came my epic struggle with, yet again, the building mechanics. Trying to get 1, this thing positioned so I could have a fence line, and 2, placing the fences down. I did figure out you could hit repeat placement, and that definitely helped with placing them if I was facing the right way when I was doing things. And literally at the start of day 28, I finished the fences. I went ahead and bought a well, a water trough, and a feeding trough. Set all those up so they're easy for me to get to. Stared longingly into the distance for about 2.5 minutes, not really sure what happened here. And then I went about buying cows. So you actually have to have female cows, and then you can use male cows to breed them. Which I got a male cow, but I never really ended up doing anything with him. So when you do get the cows, they do come as babies. So I really think that's cute that you can have the little babies. I then realized that my chickens were starving before going and harvesting up the blueberry crops that probably had been done for several minutes while I had been fussing with the farm. I then went and harvested up my chilies and my strawberries from the plains biome. Realized I did not have that many seeds, but went ahead and planted them down anyways. After checking on my cows, I went to town, traded out my jam stuff, sold everything, went over to Robin, realized I had sold the coffee that I was trying to give to her, went and buy some blueberries, strawberries, and coffee seeds. before returning home on day 29 and starting to plant everything. And after planting my coffee plants in the plains, I realized I was probably spending half of most of every single one of my days planting and harvesting crops, which it is called Farmstead. So I then proceeded to activate foliage mode and work on getting foraging up. I then realized that the next area I had to unlock was 200k. That was going to be a while. I then went and took care of the cows, which were going through their stuff super quickly before getting rid of all the blue pins to my inventory that I had picked up, and ended the day with fishing. I started harvesting up my blueberries. Realizing they weren't quite done, I headed to town, cleared out my inventory a little bit because it was getting a little bit cluttered, and headed back home. I then realized I had quite a little bit of cash, and I wanted to go ahead and get some more mushroom boxes because getting the purple mushrooms was super, super helpful. So I went ahead and placed some down. Of course, some in myself because, you know, why not? So now I had an absolute monster amount. I also was doing that because I was waiting for some of my crops to finish up. And then started the very repetitive task of planting more. I did open up the perks menu and saw the planter. Now, I wasn't going to buy it just yet. I wanted to go ahead and get as high as I could without being super pay to win because I know people don't typically like that. So, rip my finger. After realizing my coffee beans were fully harvestable, I went over and replanted that area. I then used a magnifying glass on some of my lovely blueberries. Again, one of the few times I would actually use that during this entire run. And I ran to town. At the start of day 31, I went ahead and sold everything, bought some more blueberry seeds, more strawberry seeds, and went and turned in Robin's quest finally. So he then asked me for some mushrooms, which was going to be easy. So once I returned home, I went ahead and collected all my eggs, realizing that there actually was a max capacity, so I did need to pay attention. After feeding the little egg poopers, I did see a squid, so I went ahead and tried to fish up the squid. And I got him. I then went and took care of the cows. They had actually fully grown at this point, so I was actually super excited. And I got my first little bit of milk from them. I then ran through collecting some mushrooms for my lovely little quest. Doing a little bit of foraging grinding, because foraging was the other skill other than farming I really needed to work on, because it unlocked a lot of really useful things, and I really wanted to get my own jammers to use on my farm. It would also help me make a lot more money. So, foraging grind, yay! I then took care of my main field in my main area, harvesting the blueberries and replanting. Then went ahead and did some inventory management just as day 32 came upon us. I then headed on into town, went ahead and sold everything I had acquired, and headed back home. At home, I immediately chopped down one log and got wood cutting 4. Went into the building menu. Saw that I could get a sawmill, which I don't know at this point if that's even worthwhile. Again, something I would only use once. I then realized I needed to go to town because I could buy a brand new axe. So I went ahead and bought a new axe. Sold my old one. Bought some new seeds. And headed back home yet again. I then went through and harvested up my plains field, because all of that had finally grown. And replanted with what coffee I had left and the strawberry seed. I then went around, did some foraging and chopping down some trees just to start getting some more experience. Tried to catch one of the big fish, and it got away. Tried to catch a catfish. This one was slightly easier, and I did get fishing level 2. And that was the start of day 33. Pretty much most of this day 33, I was mining and chopping down trees, just trying to get stuff leveled up while I waited for my plants to grow. My mushroom boxes had finally produced some mushrooms for me halfway through the day. I needed desperately some inventory management from the sheer amount of stuff I had harvested. After gathering up some apples, I went ahead and started harvesting up my blueberry field. A little concerned about inventory space right now, but I think I will be okay. And I ended up finishing up day 33, started 34, wrapping up my blue. And it's down. Did my jamming, sold everything. Each of these trips was becoming much more profitable each time I went. And then went over to Robin, turned in her quest, and got a quest to get apple, pear, and cherry trees. I then realized that cherry trees were probably going to be in the next zone that I would have to be unlocking, so it was going to be a while before I could finish this quest. I then picked up some seeds and then on home. I then for some reason decided to chop down every single one of my apple trees, or 10 of them at least. No idea why. And replant them. Not really sure what my thought process was there, but it happened. I then put down 3 more mushroom boxes. Fed the dumb chickens. Before deciding to actually start my pear farm on this little upper platform in the plains area. I then harvested up my crops. Someone visited my field. I have no idea who that is. Then went ahead and spent the rest of the day planting everything. And returning on day 35, I'll go ahead and harvest up all the blueberries that are now fully grown. Picking up all the mushrooms that have grown while I've been gone away. And replanting all of my blueberries. After that, we're going to go pick up some eggs. And I'm going to go ahead and take care of my chickens. And I run over and do the same thing with the cows. After collecting up all the lovely apples and doing some quick inventory management because I have so much stuff that I can collect, I go ahead and pick on up the strawberries from the plains field and replant those as well. And for whatever reason, this field, even though it's been quite some time this past, still was good to go with fertilizer. And then went fishing. I caught a fish. Apparently I tried to fish the stairs there. Not really sure what happened. And into day 36, I was basically doing foraging XP. Mostly just trying to fill up my inventory before I head back to town. And I got foraging level 6 with nothing particularly good unlocked. And after harvesting the blueberries I had just put down not that long ago, I headed on into town to sell everything we had picked up and made a very nice profit of about 39,000. Went ahead and bought some wheat. Not really sure why at this point. I think I was trying to work on the feeders. Bought a ton of strawberry seeds. Apparently was confused. Went ahead and bought some beet seeds. A lot of beet seeds. Why are you buying 300 beet seeds? And 200 blueberries, and we headed on back. Went ahead and started planting the wheat. Because wheat grows so fast, pretty much by the time I get everything planted, this first batch will be fully grown. And at the start of day 37, I wrapped up planting all of that wheat. You can kind of see behind me that it's already fully grown. It hasn't been that long, and it's already there. After harvesting up the wheat, I started planting some of the blueberries I had picked up. Then went to the plains area and went ahead and harvested up that. We got farming level 7. Did some mild foraging. And a little bit of fishing. But no success. Running back over the chickens that not even 10 minutes ago I had fed and watered, had already eaten through their food. I started to go ahead and doing a foraging run through my main area on day 38. Taking care of the cows. Getting the milk from them. And doing some more fishing. I do wish at the time I had been recording this that they did have more rewards for getting higher tier fishing, but there honestly was no real incentive to farm it, unlike foraging that I got jamming jars, so really didn't focus on that. Harvested up my new mushrooms that had spawned in. Cleared up my inventory for a while. And cleaned it up. Went to town. Picked up someone else's bucket. Sold everything for about 18,000. Went and bought a new cultivator and a new scythe. Also kind of wish inventory was a little bit bigger. That was kind of another limiting factor. So after I did some more inventory management, I went ahead and harvested up the blueberries that were already fully grown. Realized I hadn't picked up any new blueberry seeds, so I was just going to have to use the ones that I had. So it was enough to get about half the main field done. At this point in time, I was starting to slightly get annoyed with the fact that literally I was just running around collecting eggs, milk, and harvesting plants with no real downtime to start working on my skills. Because literally it's almost the end of day 38, and pretty much all I've done is harvest plants and chickens. I finally managed a little bit of time to work on mining, but it was already turned into day 39. So I continued on my little harvesting trip, but I did get mining level 4. I then went to the plains area, harvested up my strawberries and beets that had grown, replanted everything down, visited town, sold everything off, made sure I bought enough seeds to be able to plant when I went back since I didn't have enough. So wheat and blueberry. Went over to Brooks, bought a new pickaxe, and I returned home and went ahead and bought a furnace. Again, much like several other items I have bought during this playthrough, there are things that will not get used that much. This would probably be one of them as well. I kind of wish the developers had given more purpose to some of the other things like the furnace, the sawmill, other than crafting decor items. After I'd set up the furnace, I went ahead and started planting some wheat in the back half of the field that didn't have anything in it. And once it was fully grown, I started putting blueberries back in its place. Because the blueberries in the front of the field had already started to grow. And I was still doing this into day 40. Then I went around and grabbed my chicken eggs. Fed the stupid chickens. And put some waters in the trough. Now, I know you're wondering, why do you keep calling them stupid chickens? Well, honestly, as far as cost-wise go and making money, they're not that profitable compared to the effort you have to put in. And I wish I could say that I knew this at this time. I did not. Cows are kind of the same way. There is far better ways to do it, including the crops that I was constantly doing. So I feel bad for me, for past me, having to do all that. I did attempt to, move the well closer and the water troughs closer so I could fill easier, and I gave both the chicken and the cows 2 water troughs and 2 feeding troughs to kind of help alleviate my pain and suffering. I then went through and decided to commit massive deforestation, looking at the builder's table for I don't know what. Honestly, I do not remember my thought process as to what I was in here looking for. And again, I was having to harvest these eggs. As y'all can see, this is getting quite problematic. That it gets hard to do anything when you're having to manage the eggs, the feeding for those animals, and they honestly do not give that much. So to wrap up day 40, I went ahead and worked on my plains field because the beets were almost done. Now the reason I'd done the beets is I actually was just trying to plant one of everything because there is like a collection guide. So I was kind of trying to do that. So started day 41, went ahead and was planting some more. I then went ahead and bought some more silo spots. My thought with this was just to be able to organize and kind of just have one of everything. And I went back to harvesting blueberries. Now, in order to save not only the time on this video, but y'all's sanity, and unless we get something big changing, I gotta level up or I do something different, I'm not gonna talk about doing any more harvesting or collecting chicken eggs. So once we actually get into the next part of this, I'll let y'all know. So pretty much from day 41 on, just expect that we are doing a lot of harvesting. On day 42, I attempted to catch the biggest fish I have ever seen. And I caught it. It was a trout. On day 42, I also went into town and sold a ton of my wares. I was up to over 100k at that point. Day 42 also saw some mild deforestation, which I was kind of happy not to be working on crops. But I got to work on some of my other skills. Day 43 turned into a foraging montage because I realized I needed to get to foraging level 7 and I was pretty close. And also a few fishing attempts. On day 45, I had a massive inventory full of stuff I had collected from day 44, and so I went ahead and sold it for 38k. So getting slightly closer to that 200k that I needed in order to unlock the second zone, or the mountains. On day 45, also saw a visitor come to my island. Not really sure what he was doing, but it at least was amusing and something for me to look at, other than harvesting crops. On day 46, I stared at this wall for no particular reason at all. On day 47, guess what I mostly did? On day 48, I decided to go ahead and sell a couple more of those landscaping items that I really didn't need, and I was trying to save up some money. I also was selling all those blueprint items that I kept picking up, because, oh my god, I had so many. Day 49 into day 50 was just more planting and harvesting. Nothing too spectacular. Near the end of day 50, I went to town. We ended up cashing in a lot of money, and I got up to about 160,000. So we were getting a lot closer to our goal. I did at this point switch over because I was kind of using blueberries and strawberries, but you have to jam them to make good money. So I went ahead and bought a ton of carrots and beets. And pretty much my goal was to basically push our way into the next zone. So that was kind of my hope anyway. And on day 51, I hit level 8 farming. Day 52 had me standing in the middle of the carrot field, wondering my life decisions at this point. I ended off day 52 by going to town and selling our absolute monster amount of haul that we had, ending us at 184,000 before I took a break. Day 53 had me coming back to the game about, I would have to say, probably 12 hours later, IRL. I had finally gotten some honey from our beehive. That was interesting. It's gonna sell for next for nothing. That's why I said in the beginning of the video, it is absolutely worthless. But I decided to go ahead and take down the plains field because honestly, I had mostly grown out of it, so I did take down the first field. I do realize I have an absolute monster amount of carrot seeds, but at this point, having to manage all of this, I wasn't getting actually any progress done. As y'all can see, what we had nearly 10 days where all I was doing was harvesting over and over. And with us getting close to 200k, there was other things I wanted to be doing. And since we're halfway through the challenge as it is, I did go ahead and fertilize my trees and I watered them because the apple trees always are a good resource for me. Easy, cheap, and right by the door. I then set to work on the end of day 53 into the day 54, re-watering and re-fertilizing my other field. I also discovered on day 54 that I could plant my carrot seeds so they would not be going to waste. I then also set up, or started to, another kind of field area, so much like I had in the first zone where it was kind of 3 scarecrows across, that's kind of what I started working on. And this lasted until day 55. I didn't work on it long into day 55 because I ran out of fertilizer, so I was having to go around collecting mushrooms, things like that. And also I was needing to get foraging really up to level 8. Because that's where we were going to excel. And for the rest of day 55, we did some foraging. Into day 56, when I started harvesting my fields. And apparently also on day 56, I had some sympathy for my chickens and my cows. And I decided to go to town and sell all that I had. We were getting very dangerously close to 200k. And then for the rest of the day 56 and 57, I have no footage. I believe the power went out this day because I knew one of the recordings got cut insanely short, but this was kind of the time slot that was allocated for it. And so, yeah, I don't have anything for these days. So here's a picture of my cat. She is disgruntled. Okay, let's move on. Day 58, I loaded on in and went ahead and did some chores. Mushrooms, eggs, a lot of stuff had regrown, which was also kind of good for my foraging skill. I then went to town, sold everything I had, which put us right over that 200k mark. And I immediately went up to go unlock the mountain region. Well, after some foraging. And this area was a woodcutter's and a foraging person's dream. Oh my god, there was so much stuff in here. So much stuff. I also found like this little ice observatory area that they have in the mountain, and it's actually kind of cool to look at. Serves no real function, and this is also when I discovered that my woodcutting skill and my mining skill were horribly underleveled for this area to be able to take out some of the specialty rocks and the trees. And that will be a problem for future Sister Guard, because right now, foraging. And that is what I started day 59 with, was beating everything up in this forest I could get my hands on. Also discovered you could climb on things to get to the trees that are in weird spots, but you can't harvest them, which is weird. And after being a loot goblin in the other area, I went ahead and decided to be a productive member of society and, you know, went back to my fields. Then after a quick visit to town to dump off literally so much stuff that I had picked up, went over, checked to see how much the golden watering can was, and it was beyond my gem price. Day 60 started my actual foraging adventure again, to go clear out every little nook and cranny I could from the mountain region, and chopping down what I could. I also planted down some cherry trees so I could finish up Robin's quest. Ran to town, sold all my stuff, went over to Robin, and turned her quest in. And she wanted apples, pears, and mangoes. And again, I got a quest. The mangoes are in the furthest area, which I'm going to be spoiling how much it is here in just a second. Yeah, it's 2.5 million. Then I returned to my loot goblin ways. I'm pretty sure my crops were done at this point, but I was so beyond done doing crops, and I really just wanted foraging up and mining up. And then I stared into the abyss for about 30 seconds. I don't know what was going on. Probably answering a Discord message. Day 60, I did manage to get to level 5 mining, so I was actually kind of excited for that. I continued to be a foraging loot goblin into day 61, until I did realize I probably should go be a responsible human and go take care of my chores. And since I did have mining at level 5, I did switch over to the mining cape because, you know, it looks like a little nuggy. On day 61, I did see another squid in the water, so I went ahead and caught that and continued working on basically wood cutting and mining and foraging, because I really needed to get those up to be able to work in the new zone, to be able to clear stuff, and also so I could start making more money. I continued doing that well into day 62 until I finally realized, okay, yeah, let's go take care of the crops that have been sitting here for 25 minutes with me not doing anything with them. And then I'll let y'all guess what we did. More foraging and more mining in the plains biome. At the start of day 63, I was staring off into the distance before I decided to go ahead and start going back to foraging. Don't know why I stood there for 30 seconds. I then saw another squid on the pier, and then I went back to town and sold everything. And we were back up to 37,000. Well, that is until I bought crops. I then decided to rearrange all of my stuff where it was a little bit more easier to get. I did go over to the functional area. I bought 4 butter turns, some more cement things, some furnaces, and some sawmills. Because I was going to make stuff that I could, you know, decorate my farm with. Because that was kind of one of my hidden goals that I had for myself was, you know, decorate my area so it looked nice. Also, at one point I put the sawmill on top of myself. Not really sure why physics let me do that, but it did. And again, dummy sister guard loaded everything up with all the stuff that was there and, you know, organizing, bought more silo space. Then decided after, I don't know how many days to actually feed the cows, which they immediately came running over and just devoured everything. My inventory at this point, day 64, is just, it gives me anxiety watching this back to do the voiceover. And then a quick trip to town for some 15k gold worth of crops, and I headed back and we started day 65 collecting more things. Like, does she finally put everything up and we have given up? Have we given up? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Then started working on foraging and wood cutting in the mountain area. I found this little light up by the little ice lake area and proceeded to play click the button, click the button, click the button. And then went back and messed with the machines again. Still don't know why I chose to do this. And work on some of my crops. Day 65 into 66, I decided I really needed to finish foraging. I needed to get that up to level 8. I really needed to level that up so I could get the jams, so I could start making even more money and making the big money. And then I decided that I had no idea why I bought that many sawmills and just reduced it down to 2, which was, in hindsight, probably a good idea. And we got rid of some of the other machines that I had just way too much of, that there was no reason. I then went ahead and bought some more mushroom boxes because honestly, that's the only thing I needed to be buying at that point. Then I finally got up to foraging level 7 after I had literally clipped every single piece of grass I could find. I went to town real quick, sold what I could. Just realized looking back at the footage, I sold 16 wheat seeds, just no apparent reason. I then finally started buying jams, and I bought 30 of them to start. And I had this little area next to my apple orchard that I was going to put them all. Originally, I had one space in between them. Because, you know, I thought I needed that. Started jamming immediately up some strawberries that I had. Realizing that I probably could put these a little bit closer, so I went ahead and started manually moving the ones I had bought. Because honestly, running on top of them was a little bit easier. Day 67, I planted some crops and I picked up all of the jams that I had left to get jammed. They're actually pretty quick, and considering how much money you get, it's kind of insane. So I went to town and I went and sold everything I had because I had about 170 jams, so we had 31,000. I was about to buy a ton of strawberry seeds to help make my money back. I then started placing scarecrows to expand my fields because in order to have enough stuff or berries in between jammings, so I had to basically prep 3 additional fields on top of what I had. And when I say this took me a while, it took me a while. It was halfway into day 86 before I managed to water them all. I haven't fertilized them yet, mind you, but that was just to water them. Bill at this point was fascinated with making butter, and I have no idea why. Now, after spending nearly 3 minutes solid walking my character around to plant the fertilizer, I finally broke. Over 2/3 of the way done with this, and I actually bought a Roblox item. And this is so that for the rest of the playthrough, I could actually get stuff done. And that was the planter. So what this planter allows me to do is to put fertilizer and crop seeds into it and allow me to basically shove it around the field, and I can speed put things in. Now, I'm going to tell y'all right now, it took me a little longer than I would like to admit in order to get this to work. But once I got it to work, it was really, really nice. And just look at the strawberries, just I was very excited about this because this would allow me, one, to actually get some of my goals done, because I kind of also wanted to build something, and I have 30 days left pretty much, and I have built nothing. Like, the front end of our farm looks poop. And then went to town, sold everything, and bought strawberry seeds, so when it was time to replant, I had stuff ready to go. And I refilled up my little auto feeder thing before heading back for the lovely nice day of day 69 and realizing I had plenty of time now to do other activities. So much like getting a bunk bed, I now had time for other activities, and I realized I needed to get my wood cutting up because we needed to get into the mountain area. Also on this very nice day, I decided to go ahead and feed the water the animals. Because, you know, I gotta be nice to them at some point. After much deforestation and filling up my inventory, I went ahead and went back to town, sold everything, bought more strawberry seeds. Again, the butter. Why? Why are we still infatuated with the butter? I forgot I spent that long on butter. And apparently I stared at this screen for no less than a minute and a half. So I then had my first harvest, which with silver sickle, I was able to very, very quickly harvest it all up. And it was huge. I went over and put it up in the jams. And yes, this is my favorite thing to do, watching it go blup, 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 blup. And on day 70, we hit farming level 9. One more level to max. This was also when I got to replant my whole field. And I'm loving this auto. You have no idea, guys. No idea. Best item in the game, right there. I then decided to sit and wait for my jams. Okay. I'm not saying everything in this playthrough was smart. That was not my smartest moment. Once the jams were ready, I did move. I do promise y'all. And I very hastily re-jammed everything. Because we needed to make back a lot of money from buying all those things. And I wanted more. Went to town. Sold all the jam. 25,000. So much. I then started looking at the price for the crops for the mountains area. To kind of get an idea of how much I was going to need. On day 71, I did manage to hit level 3 of fishing. And halfway through the day, I managed to have a strawberry harvest. So, went and took care of that. Took everything I had to town and sold an absolute monster amount of jam and fish. Apparently some mushrooms. We had 37,000, so quite a bit. On day 72 was replant and chore day. So that was gathering up all the jam, putting more in, and replanting field. And I went ahead and took another break because I need trees. And trees will naturally respawn if you wait IRL time. So that's what I was going to do. I did catch a fish. You went club. Now, me returning on day 73, I'm going to be very frank. I don't know how long I waited. It was at least a day or two. Just so I could get the max amount of stuff to kind of respawn. So after kind of gathering up my mushrooms, because fertilizer, because I knew I was going to have to refertilize my fields. And apparently I'd left some jam sitting for me. Which, by the way, y'all let me know what your favorite jam is in the comment section down below. I started working on clearing everything around from my farm. So trees, all that good stuff. I caught a little bit of fish. I was still trying to figure out how I could make the mountain area work at this point. Because I really wanted to get in there, and I really wanted to be using the cranberries that you can get from up there because they give a lot of money. I then went to town and sold everything for 70,000 gold. Woohoo! I also picked up a couple quests from these guys because I wanted to kind of get some more gems so I could get some better stuff. I also bought an absolute monster amount of strawberry seeds because I also knew I was going to have to work and get some money. Day 74, business as usual. And I started my deforestation attempts. Also on day 74, we went to town. I completed a quest and forgot that I have to wait 24 hours or 20 hours to get a new one. And I also got Kara's quest done. So I went and sold what I had. Got another 21,000, headed home. And got back to my tree murdering days. Day 75, again, in between getting that strawberry going, I was murdering the trees. For the rest of the day, I decided to destroy the pink trees of the plains. Day 76 was also me struggling with the trees. For those of you wondering why that this is probably very painful to watch, that's because it was even for me to play it. Because literally I was going around finding these minute little trees and I needed some big chunkies. And I could not take down the ones that I really wanted to, which were these guys in here, so I could plant the cranberries. So I resigned myself to working on mining and chopping whatever I could back in the mountain area. I was on day 76, had someone visit. Dead clown? No idea. Hi, thanks for stopping by. On day 77, I just finished going through one of my strawberry harvests, and I saw I had a couple trees and rocks, so I decided let's go take care of them, get that XP. I was really struggling at this point, guys, to get some wood chopping XP. I was trying as I might, but I was losing faith. I went to town, sold everything I had for 51,000. Yeah, we're already up to 173,000 yet again. Again, I was very fascinated with all the things I could plant up in the mountains once I had space. And I was also trying to figure out time cost. I then bought 500 strawberry seeds. And there's more strawberry seeds. We're up to almost 800. What are you doing? E78 had pretty much been like the past couple days were, where it was literally just me scavenging for what I could, not using big brain strats just yet. And making a lot of money with strawberries. Did go to town again, sold a bunch of stuff. Made another 50,000 back. After we had spent nearly 80k on strawberry seeds. Day 79 was the exact same. Oh, it's so sad to watch this back, but yeah. Yeah. Into day 79, I did end up going to town, selling everything for a nifty little 50k. So that was nice. Nothing exciting happened on day 80 other than me going to town to sell actually a pitiful 11k. I did, however, buy a single oak sapling in town. And what I did was planted it because I had a thought. Maybe I could use this to farm some woodcutting XP. Maybe. We'll see. I then went around because I realized it's day 80 and I have done no decorating, and y'all would give me so much grief if I did that, so I sold all the stuff that was in the front. Bought some of the asphalt road and a few other things. Because you know I got that strawberry money now. And on day 81, I actually started decorating my farm. I know some of y'all are like, that looks horrible, sister. I kind of agree looking at this now. But I started just kind of freestyling it, putting stuff down, seeing how it flowed. Also, I much better master of the building mechanics for this game, so I was very easily able to lay down paths very quickly and deleted the asphalt that I'd put down because that just looked bleh. I then decided that the pleb farm would definitely have some gnomes. I put some little stone thingies down. I did discover that I could put stuff on the ground underneath the machines, which was nice. I then started trying to decorate around my apple orchard. I thought a nice little stone path would do well. Once they were all encased, I realized I had like this little back corner area with nothing in it. So I decided to kind of make like a little bench sitting area. And I went back there and sat. And it was nice. And peaceful. And I decided to flip them because I didn't like how I had it the first time. Also realized with having that light on that lights actually made a difference in this game. And kind of made things not as dark. So I was like, okay, let's kind of add some stone pathing around here. Let's kind of add some decorum. Day 82, I still was decorating. Looking around at flower pots, towers. I'm gonna be really honest, amongst all this decoration, I was trying to be fancy. I tried some hay bales, because I'm from the south, and that is a decorum item in our park. Then I decided I hated them, so I removed them because I wanted some like little garden lamp things. I then went back and did some more chores before going into town at the end of day 82, selling everything I had gotten. So we were just at about 250k. So day 83 started off, I had literally just been staring at that. I had decided that I was done with the chickens and I was done with the cows. So day 83, they were going bye-bye because I was about to take a day or two off to let everything respawn. I had not been using my brain yet. I took all this apart on day 83. Still don't know why I got it in the first place. Don't get the cows and chickens. They're not worth it. Should not have ever gotten them. Day 84. It had been 2 days. I immediately got in and I got wood cutting up to level 6. and realized I needed to be level 7. So, first order of priority, other than making money, because I like money, was going to be getting woodcutting up. I had 16 days left, and I wanted to at least make a super farm up in the mountain areas. Also realized apparently I had a ton of stuff in my inventory from the day 83 that I never went and sold off. So after purging my inventory with much scrutiny, we were at over 300k. I started deforesting, hoping to get woodcutting up to level 7. Day 85, I had finished most of the main area deforestation. Like, as you can see in the background of these shots, most of it's gone. Like, I had spent most of the day just clearing everything out. I then moved into the mountain area before having to go back to town so that I could sell everything because my inventory was very full yet again. Still during this time, even though I was, you know, mountain forest guard, I still was trying to get my jam going because I wanted money. And if we were going to do cranberries in the furthest area, I was going to need a lot of cash. I started deforestation efforts in the plains biome, hoping I could get another level. That's that ain't though. Day 86, I was working still on the plains biome. I actually had ended up also working on foraging. You know, trying to multitask there. I also bought some more slots in the silo because, you know, I was a hoarder. I then went back up to the mountain area and kept trying to channel my inner mountain man before heading back to town and selling everything I'd gotten. We were almost at 400k. I was very surprised by that. So, and then I saw a squid, so I decided to go and get it. Also, I figured out how to use worms. Worms are very important on a fishing rod. And with how much I was digging up, I was getting plenty of them. Day 86, I was back in the mountain area, clearing everything out, chopping down what I could, mining what I could. And then I went back into the main plains area and I started trying to chop everything down out there that had respawned. And then I had to go back and do the chores around my farm that I was doing, such as gathering up mushrooms, making fertilizer. I did go to town, sold all the junk I had hoarded on me. Again, I need more inventory space. I then decided, let's go ahead and buy some oak trees. Let's see if we can do something with this. 88 days for me finally to have big brain moment. After piddling around in my silo for a little too long, I went over and started planting trees. As you can see by the lovely colors I have made on the screen, trees don't like to plant next to each other, so I was having to basically babysit this the whole time. So yeah, I'm gonna not bore y'all with this. I'll tell y'all when we got done with the trees. So I finished the trees on day 88. The problem is you don't get as much experience if you take down the babies. So I had to wait until they grew up into the biggins. So I went around, deforested in the plains area, fished a little, fished some more. Day 89 rolled around. I chopped down some trees in the main area. And then I started the deforestation process. And wood cutting, unlike, you know, farming, you only have 1 or 2 Q spots. So I was constantly having to click and watching where I was going because I could get stuck on the trees because they had collision. The amount of pain and suffering I endured for this, oh my god. Because I could see it was working so well, on the second half of day 89, I started planting trees across the way so that once I was done chopping the trees on my side, these would already be all done. By day 90, I had finished that and we were back to chopping the main group of trees. I had stopped attempting farming at this point because I really needed my woodcutting skill up. I went to town. I did end up buying more trees apparently, and I planted them all back down. The original batch was done at day 90. And I went ahead and planted more. Which is weird because planting the trees you get farming XP, chopping the trees down you get woodcutting XP. Please explain this to me. Day 91, I had finally planted everything. I went ahead and grabbed the mushrooms and I started deforesting the middle area. On occasion I stopped to fish, don't judge me. And I started deforesting. Then I managed to move to the middle area. At the very end of day 91 into 92, I unlocked wood cutting 7. I was done with trees. Oh my god, I was done with trees. So I had 8 days to finish decorating and to build a super farm up in the mountain areas. Of course, I had to go sit by my orchard. Yeah, if you build an orchard, don't put a little like swing bench next to it. That's a bad idea because every time you run through there, you'll spamming E, you'll get thrown into it. So don't do that. I did go back to town, sold, and then proceeded to buy so many cranberry seeds. So many. Just 400 to start. And then went and also got the silver axe because I was going to have to chop a lot of trees up in the mountain area. Still didn't have mining up. I was not going to fuss with that right now because honestly, I was ready to start my farm. Day 92, I started chopping down and kind of planning out the area that I was going to be putting stuff down in. So when I started marking off where I would start, because I knew how big the scarecrows were, so I went ahead and started getting those areas set up. And this bled over into day 93. There's a lot of this. At this point in time, I was just going to go ahead and do 6 scarecrows worth. I wanted to expand out to more, but did not have enough time, so I went ahead and plopped down 2 different wells. Because even though I have the nice fancy cedar thing, I don't have a good watering can. And as you can see how fast that planter runs out when I am done. I did also find out that if you plant stuff, it still will grow. It just takes longer if it's not watered and doesn't have fertilizer. Also, at this point when I was playing the game, I know there's probably several people in the comment section like, you should have gotten sprinklers. When I was actually playing, this was before they had made sprinklers super OP. So yes, I am aware now that they have been patched. They are much, much better. However, at the time I was recording this and playing, no, they did like 4 squares. So I'm going to let y'all know it was well into day 94 before I got everything watered. Not everything was fertilized because I was still having to wait on that. You know, not using my big brain to, just go buy the fertilizer because, you had 300k. That would have been a smart brain move, but, we've already discovered during this playthrough I'm dumb. But I did manage near the end of day 94 to go ahead and at least get some fertilizer down. Did also look at the large scarecrows for a minute. Thought about getting them. But then just decided to go ahead and get 6 of the smaller ones. Because I did want to make some stuff bigger. Because I wanted to make this a super farm. And when I mean super farm, it's going to be a lot of cranberries. So, that's what I did for the rest of the day 95. Was continue to work on it. Also want to let y'all know that there was a single ore I could not take out. Because I did not have a high enough mining skill. I was so mad. But into day 95, I went to town, sold everything we had gotten together, and I bought a lot of cranberry seeds. Well over 700. So, day 96, went ahead and worked on my fertilizer. I also went ahead and filled in my lovely preserving barrels, because this area looked a little unfilled. Also, looking back at this, I'm sorry, anyone with OCD. I realized they were turned the other way. Makes you feel any better to trap myself in one. I don't know if that helps. Then went up and I got on 96, I got my first skill at level 10, which was the farming skill. So, I mean, that's to be expected. This game is called Farmstead. That was going to be the first one I got done. And it's kind of the easiest because everything pretty much contributes to farming. I then spent a good majority of day 96 watering as much as I could. Finally had the big brain strat to go to town and buy some fertilizer to finish off the last little bit because my mushroom farm was not cutting it at this point. And I wanted all this stuff fertilized. But I was still watering. I was still watering so much. But at the end of day 96, I had my second full harvest of cranberries. I was super excited. Finally had gotten this. One of the best farming methods they have in the game is up here. Doing this, so I was super excited we had gotten to this point. Day 97, I replanted the field, and I tried to finish up that last little bit of watering I had to do. I was so excited to have all this done. And I was going to have 3 days to actually enjoy it. And for those of you wanting to know, I had only roughly about 150 seeds left from planting this entire field. So it was about a 500 plus crop field. So I was actually pretty proud of it. But middle of day 97, we finally finished that watering. So went ahead and started canning on up. Also started trying to grab some mushrooms because I had no fertilizer. I then also started kind of decorating our jamming area just because, you know, it looked a little out of place next to the very fully decorated orchard. Man, I tried for y'all. I tried. I'm not normally like a let's decorate the area person. Minecraft, I build like block houses, okay? I also put floors underneath the barrels too. Then I went around and collected all that lovely jam. Took me into day 98. And I did more decorating so that we could have all that nice and filled in. And then went and checked on our farm. I had 25 minutes, so probably could get one more harvest in before we wrapped on up for the day. But I went ahead and started building this really long road and trying to design a little bit better. So I'm going to describe day 98 to day 100 for y'all. Panic building, because I wanted to at least have something nice to show at the end of this video. And with the days only being about 10 minutes long, I had roughly from about this point in the video 25 minutes to come up with something. And Sister's a little bit of a procrastinator, but this was next level. So I buckled down and I'll let y'all see what we did. I did also go catch a manta ray. I even made a nice little area that had like the little well, and I realized that there was signs, so I went ahead and wrote the different stuff on the signs, where stuff was pointing to. And as always, guys, please make sure you subscribe and like the video. It helps me out a lot. This is my first 100 days adventure. I always would appreciate a critique so that I can get better and make this more enjoyable for y'all. So please let me know. I would greatly appreciate it in the comment section down below. If there's anything you liked, anything you didn't like, and if there's any other games you would like to see me do this kind of thing with. Also, it would be up to like 50 hours for games that don't have a day-night cycle, because I know not all games do. And I had a lot of fun doing this, playing this game. And honestly, I would like to go back and play this game again. However, if I was to do 200 days, I don't actually have the footage anymore. So, because I did actually keep playing this after I was done recording, because I did enjoy the game. It was a lot of fun. Now, on day 99, I actually did some texturalizing of the sidewalks. I put different stones down to help break up the path, make it a little more appeasing. And I actually used the trees from my woodcutting farm in order to kind of help make, you know, a little more scenic view. And I grabbed a couple of other decorative items to go ahead and make the area kind of fill out a little bit more. I did make this little park area. And I also put down more of those garden lights. I ended up not liking them spaced out. So pretty much day 100 was just finishing up everything that we hadn't gotten done yet. Putting on some last decorative touches, so to speak. Put a nice little street lamp in the corner. And I went up and harvested our cranberries for the last time. Oh, I was so excited. We had a full field. Was getting so much stuff. I wanted to jam them one more time. That's what I did. I would have just enough time as our playthrough ended to get one more last thing done. I also want to see how much money we made, because this was a lot. That was a lot of cranberries. So as the cranberries wrapped on up, I went back to town and sold everything. And so we had about 230,000. And I still had another set to wait through. So while I waited for that final set to be done, I went ahead and started trying to decorate as much as I could. Again, panic building. And panic jamming. Now at this point, as I am gathering up the last little bit of this jam, I actually have finished our timer. So it has officially been 100 days. But I do want to see how much money we've managed to grab. So officially it has been 100 days. I wasn't able to sell that last little bit of jam, but I do want to show y'all everything that we have gotten here. So skills, as you can see there, This is all the collectibles I've gotten. I never got mayonnaise. Got a lot of the fish. Didn't get all of them. I wish I had. So, and there's the last little bit of our jam. Let's go ahead and sell that in town. Just see how much money we cultivated in total. I mean, it's probably, yeah. So, guys, thank y'all for making it to this part of the video. I greatly appreciate it. And I hopefully y'all have a great day. See y'all next time.